they're nice and comfy seats. We're happy about the seats. Thank you all so much for coming to our talk. I'm very excited by this. I'm going to go straight in. Matthieu, so Wandercraft. Some people in the audience will know what you do and some people won't. So can you tell us what your company does and also why it was started?
Yeah. So 10 years ago, my co-founder and myself were looking at what was going on in humanoid robotics. And we were seeing the first humanoid robots be able to walk and move. And now it's become very mainstream, but back then it was very impressive to see. And it just happens that in my co-founder's family, there is a neurodegenerative disease where people slowly lose the ability to stand up and walk in their 20s, 30s. And looking at that technology, we were like, wow, this is amazing. And the first use case for this is actually to make people walk again. And so we built that company, Wandercraft, on leveraging the technology behind humanoid robots to make people walk again. And 10 years in, we now have products everywhere on the planet. We had 2,000 patients walk with our product last year, taking millions of steps. And we are releasing a new product next year into homes, which will impact the lives of tens of thousands of people.
So essentially transforming people with disabilities' lives.
Yes, exactly. People with walking impairments. So think people who've had car accidents, motorcycle accidents, but also people who had stroke or multiple sclerosis. Anything that prevents you from walking, we think and we want to help.
And did you say it was 12 years ago that it was founded? And obviously lots have changed technologically and we've got AI now. So you've seen it through those times.
Yes, and it's been very interesting to see because when we started, people actually told us what you want to do is impossible because robotics just wasn't there. But it just happened that it was possible indeed, and we built our first product. But we hit a ceiling with model-based approach and model-based control where you have to program what you're doing. You just reach a ceiling that is very difficult to overcome. And then AI came and changed a lot of things, especially in robotics. And it started really with reinforcement learning. We are probably one of the first companies to publish on that topic. And reinforcement learning allowed everything we see now with those robots that are extremely agile, that perform very well, that can jump and do backflips and stuff like that. And now we are seeing the next wave of AI, what we call physical AI, embodied AI, where the robots are able to understand better their environment, and they go from memorization to generalization. And that changes a lot of things because suddenly robots, we have that perspective that they are not constrained in a very well-defined environment, but we see a world where they will be able to go outside. And this is a very exciting time.
Very exciting. We will come back to scary maybe later. Babak, so you're behind Siri's natural language processing technology. So everybody who knows Siri knows what you created, which is pretty amazing. You're the Chief AI Officer at Cognizant. Can you tell us what you do there and I suppose how AI has impacted on your job and business?
Yeah, Cognizant is a very large services company that is turning into an AI builder company. And that's because there's this huge opportunity to engineer AI now. AI is moving from this magical be-all, end-all system to something that needs to be engineered. And the technology that we're bringing through our AI labs and investments in innovation is multi-agentic technology. That does require customization and engineering in order to build trustworthy and reliable systems, not just software systems, but also augmenting and improving organizational structures and processes. And we've started from ourselves. So we are our own first clients. We've started agentifying our own processes and organizational structures, and that's what we build and then we take out to our clients.
Okay, and you have a thing that multi-agents is better than single agents?
Yes, they are, yeah.
Tell us more.
Yeah, so large language models are generally capable, but we have to tell them what to do. We have to give them what is commonly known as a system prompt. So we basically give them a scope of responsibility. We give them some tools. For starters, that kind of confines them anyway. So you have this very powerful knowledge worker, but you still have to put it in a box and tell it what to do. And then, of course, they're limited on the number of tools that they can use. You have to give them tools so they can act in the real world. That's what makes them an agent. The moment you do that, and you have an agent responsible for one of your apps, and you have an agent responsible for a different app, it just makes sense for these agents to talk to each other. And because out of the box they understand natural language, they have this robust inter-agent communication language that is future-proof. They can react to future states and contexts that have never been seen before in a collective way. And the power is in the numbers. Modularity is the way we can engineer these systems to be reliable.
Okay. The title of this talk is The Art of Building Intelligent Things. But what do you think, and what do we mean by intelligent things? So is it about data and algorithms, or is there an emotional human side of intelligence in design? Matthew, simple question there for you.
Intelligence is really about creativity and being able to handle things that you have not been programmed for. And this is the phase that we're seeing right now in robotics. Something I didn't share is that based on the platform that we developed for making people walk again, we've developed a fully autonomous humanoid robot designed for industrial applications. Heavyweight, moving stuff around. 5 years ago, this was completely impossible, because when you're inside a factory, even for a very well-defined task, you're going to have so much variability, and things will change from one day to another. And when you talk to chief manufacturing officers or factory managers, they will tell you that their issue with robotics is that historically, they've had to program it to do something very specific, like take this has this shape, put it there, and whenever you would change the setup or the layouts, even a tiny bit, it would be a nightmare. It would take tens of thousands of dollars to reprogram and stuff. And intelligent machines are machines where you're going to be able to do this way, way faster, and even without any intervention from a human being. And we're seeing that this gets increasingly feasible. And even to the point that we can project ourselves to a world where there will be robots out there, possibly in homes in a few years, not now, but in a bit of time. And that's where intelligence is really important.
And what do you think when we say intelligent things?
In 30 seconds? Well, intelligence is multifaceted. There are many aspects in human intelligence, which is our only reference, that we point at and we say that's a facet of intelligence. And learning is one of them, and surprisingly, large language models only learn offline, and they can't learn online, so we still have some ways to go to hit that facet. Creativity is another. They're actually pretty creative, maybe not in extrapolating, but within scope of what they've been trained on, they're quite good. Detecting, sensing the world, including sensing other people's emotions, and being able to express emotions, I think we associate that with intelligence as well. Surprisingly, large language models, even from a just text alone perspective, are quite good at picking up emotional cues and being able to express emotional emotions as well. So, I mean, I don't think we're quite there 100%, especially visually yet, but we're on that path.
Matthew, when somebody uses one of your products and for the very first time, and I think there's a TikTok video where there's a girl who is in one of your exoskeletons and they're walking for the first time, and it went viral. It's like, I don't know, 400 million?
Yeah, I think we entered the top 10 of TikTok videos ever, which is pretty amazing, and just shows how much emotion goes into using such a product. being able to stand up for the very first time, and in her case, it was the first time in 10 years, typically people are very surprised and they get back some of the feelings that they hadn't experienced for a long time, like being able to see eye to eye and feeling the world from a different and seeing the world from a different place. And to your point, being able to experience the world is something very important for human beings, and your situation means a lot in that context.
In terms of data, how important is data, say, in your business and your job?
It's extremely important, not just to train these AI systems. We need a diversity of data, and it seems to never be enough. You know, a snapshot of the internet seems to now not be enough to get us to the next level with large language models. But also, we are talking about applying these systems in our businesses and in our real lives. And so, you know, being able to give the context within which an AI agent is operating becomes very, very important. And so having your data shop in order, exposing what is important at the right time and at the right speed to these systems so they can make decisions on them becomes very important.
And if I may, I think it's super interesting what you said, because we've basically exhausted the entire internet to train. We've extracted as much data as we could from that place. And I believe that the next step is actually going in the real world out there and getting a variety of data that will be so much larger, because the real world is very unstructured, full of diverse things. And if we want to train physical AI that acts and interacts with the real world, you need real world data. And in our case, we already have hundreds of devices out there who are generating data. Next year, we'll go into the thousands. And I believe gathering that data and training the next models will be key to go to that next step.
And gathering that data is from people using your products?
Yes. It's very important because there is only so much you can do with synthetic data, especially in the real world. You need to incorporate data that comes from real world. And to your point on being out of scope, you very quickly go out of scope in the real world. And we have a quick announcement to make. We just signed a new partnership on the humanoid side of our business with an Italian tier 1 automotive supplier. And for a long time, Europe was a bit behind in terms of robotics. We are seeing all these people in all these companies in China and a lot in the US as well. But we are now getting Europe in the race and with top players that can contend with all these companies. So we're pretty excited about that.
Congratulations. It's really good. Well done. Because you're based in France, as in this company was created in France.
Yeah, so the company is now global. We are both in the US and in Europe, but the DNA comes from France originally, and now we've expanded all over Europe. And it hurts to see Europe being lagging on so many topics, whereas there are a lot of bright minds that come from here, and they tend to go elsewhere, and it's difficult to see.
Yeah, exciting. Well done. Babak, I'm going to talk about responsible innovation and safety. So what are your considerations when you have to look, say, your AI lab? What are your considerations, safety considerations?
Yeah, so first of all, out of the box, these agents all have large language models behind them, so making sure that the large language models themselves are aligned with the values that we want to bring is important. And there's some fine-tuning that usually goes around that. But the lab has also innovated to the point where we can, for example, measure absolute confidence of a large language model in its own assertions. And that's a huge breakthrough. It turns out that when a large language model is told to produce some output, it will always produce it, whether it is confident in its output or not. And so we found a way to actually measure an absolute value confidence in that output. Now, you can imagine if we set a threshold on that absolute value confidence, we can always fall back to either rule-based behavior or bring a human in when the large language model itself is literally telling you that what it's going to do or what output it's going to give you is not confident enough.
Matthew, so responsible innovation and safety, there's probably a lot for you, but particularly physical safety.
Yes, and I think in our case, responsibility is also about when you choose to deploy. Because deployment is key to physical AI. This is how you have units in the real world that gather data. But you need to do that at a point where you know that you have a sufficient level of safety. Because it's very easy to deploy out there things that are very unsafe and that create a lot of risk and hazards for the users. And if you count on that to gather data that you will then use to train and improve your product, there's a bit of irresponsibility in that. And that's not how you build trust. And ultimately, trust is what matters. And we are seeing that in autonomous cars, for example, the players that acted responsibly and had the safest cars are the ones who are thriving now.
Trust is good for business, I always say.
Trust is very good for business.
Very good. So last question. So looking ahead, and I know it's a big question, but if we fast forward 5 years, what do you think will surprise us most about intelligent products?
I think the future is multi-agentic. In the extreme, we will all, our companies are going to be represented by multiple agents that talk to other people's companies' agents and to consumers' agents. In fact, we're at the Web Summit right now. I do believe that the web itself, there will be an agentic web akin to the web right now, with the difference that the pages themselves are active agents that are working with one another. And I think the emergent behavior that we can expect from a million agent, multi-agentic system is going to far exceed what we expect from our individual large language model systems. I think the path to AGI is through extreme multi-agency.
Okay, and Matthew?
I think we'll be very surprised by how mainstream intelligent robots have become in some areas where they've become like the norm and nobody's even surprised to see them there, and how at the same time they have not yet managed to break through in some environments. And we'll be thinking, why is it so mainstream here, but it's not yet there? And I think the answer will be because this environment is still challenging for this level of intelligence.
Okay, thank you both so much for joining us. It was absolutely insightful. Please put your hands together for Matthieu Masselin, CEO of Wandercraft, and Babak Hodjat, Chief AI Officer of Cognizant. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.